I remember the way you used to sit in silence, not trying to fill the air, like you understood that presence alone was enough to care. You never asked me to explain myself, you never asked me to pretend. You just stayed there beside me, like it didn't have to end. There was peace in the way you existed, in the way you stayed calm, like the world couldn't touch me while you were in my arms. I didn't realize how rare that was until it became past, until I learned that some moments are never meant to last. Stay low, you don't need to hold what had to leave. Some love exists just to make you believe. Stay low, you don't need to search for when some hearts meet once without intent. I stopped asking if you still think of me, stopped asking if you care, because what we had was real, even if you're not there. You didn't leave me broken, you didn't leave me alone. You left me more honest, more able to grow. And even now, when I feel the night around me cold and wide, I don't feel abandoned, I feel alive. Alive because I knew you, alive because it was true, alive because it's loving you helped me become someone new. And somehow that truth still stays in everything I do. I found your old message last night, buried between newer things. It wasn't anything dramatic, just you asking if I got home safe. I remember how normal it felt, how I didn't think twice, how safety was something simple, not something I had to survive. I sat there staring at those words longer than I expected, not because I wanted you back, but because I remembered who I was then. Someone who was softer, someone who believed that people who cared about you would always be there when you breathe. I don't blame you for leaving, I don't blame myself for staying. We were just two people city. Not you, not us. Just the feeling of not questioning whether something would last. I learned how to be alone now, in a way that doesn't scare me, in a way that feels like returning to someone I was meant to be. You couldn't take anything from me. You revealed what was already there, the part of me that could love without fear and still stand when no one cared. And now when I walk home at night, through streets that don't know your name, I don't feel like something ended. I feel like something changed. Not into sadness, not into loss, but into understanding of what love really cost. I saw a car like yours today, same color, same worn out shine. For a second my body reacted before my mind had time. I slowed down without thinking, tried to see who was inside. Not because I expected you, just because something in me tried. It's strange how memory lives in my soul, not just in the head. How the heart remembers directions even when the feeling's dead. I kept driving after that, windows down, air cold, thinking about how something once familiar can suddenly feel old. Not in a bitter way, not in regret, just in that quiet understanding you don't forget. I used to think closure was a moment, something clear and clean. But now I know it's quieter than that. It's something in between. It's the day you stop rehearsing conversations you'll never have. The day their name becomes a thought instead of a path. You didn't leave a hole inside me, you left a shade, something that changed how I see people, how I wait. And now I don't look for what we had in someone new. I just carry the knowledge that once it was true. And somehow that's enough not to go back, but to move forward without feeling like I lack. recognize your silhouette from outside. Before I even open the door, that small moment of knowing someone was already there for you.
Today there was someone else in that seat, laughing in the same careless way. And I realized the world doesn't pause just because something changed in you. I didn't feel angry, I didn't feel replaced. I just kept walking at my own pace.
There's a quiet strength in not needing to return, and letting places belong to the past,
And understanding that some versions of you were never meant to last. You didn't leave me with emptiness, you left me with perspective. You showed me how deeply I could feel and how to survive the disconnect.
now when I sit alone somewhere new,
With no one waiting inside, I don't feel forgotten, I feel like I've stepped outside the person I used to be, outside the need to be seen, into something quieter, something clean.
and somehow that
Feels like peace, not loud, not obvious, just real. I found your old hoodie in the back of my closet, folded the way you left it. I don't know why I kept this long. Maybe I wasn't ready to admit it. It didn't smell like you anymore, just like dust and time. But when I held it for a second, something shifted in my mind. Not sadness, not pain, just recognition of how real something was before it became distance. There was a version of me in those days who didn't question everything, who didn't analyze every silence or brace for what endings bring. I used to believe moments could stay if you were careful enough, if you loved honestly, if you didn't make things tough. But life doesn't follow agreements, it moves in its own way. It doesn't ask if you're ready, it just doesn't stay. I didn't put the hoodie back, but I didn't throw it away. I just held it for a moment, then let it rest where it lay.
for you. I didn't change it right away. I let it run longer than I needed, just to see what it would say. It sounded different now, not because it changed, but because I wasn't the same person who first felt that way. I remembered the drive where you sang along, missing half the words, laughing at yourself like nothing in the world could hurt. I remember watching you more than the road ahead, thinking how strange it was to feel calm instead of dread. Now it's just another song again. It doesn't carry me back, it just reminds me quietly of something I don't lack. I don't miss the past like I used to. I don't need it to return. I just respect the version of me who had so much to learn. You didn't stay long enough to become part of my routine, but you stay long enough to change what love could mean. And now when music plays at night and no one's in the seat beside me, I don't feel the absence of you, I feel the presence of me. Someone who kept moving even when it was hard. Someone who stopped looking backward and lowered his guard. And somehow that feels stronger than anything we were. Not because it erased you, but because it didn't need to. Not because I stopped caring, not because it meant less, but because I learned how to exist without needing to confess. There's a quiet kind of freedom in not being expected, in not wondering if your absence will be noticed or corrected. I used to measure nights by who was there. Now I measure them by peace, by whether my mind is calm enough to finally release. You didn't take that from me, you helped me see it clear. That love isn't always about staying, it's about who you become while they're here. And now I don't walk faster in the rain, I let it fall and stay, because I know I can carry myself at the end of any day. I pass by the bench where we used to sit, the paint more faded than I remember. I almost stopped without thinking, like some part of me still lived there. We spent hours on that bench, talking about things that didn't matter. Or maybe they did, because they mattered to us. I used to watch your hands when you spoke, the way you moved them without noticing, like your thoughts needed space outside your body. I don't remember the last time we sat there, I just remember there was a last time, and neither of us knew it while it was happening. That's the strange part about endings, they don't announce themselves, they hide inside ordinary days and only reveal themselves later. I didn't sit down today, I just stood there for a moment, not because I was hurting, but because I was remembering who I was before I learned how to let go, before I understood that nothing is permanent. I don't belong to that bench anymore, and it doesn't belong to me, but it still exists, like proof that we existed too. And somehow that's enough, not to hold on, but to keep walking without needing to look back.
had a story. Now most of it was just objects again. Quite ordinary. I found an old receipt in my jacket pocket from a night I barely remember. Except I know you were there, because I never went to that place alone. It wasn't the receipt that stayed with me, it was the version of myself holding it. Someone who didn't think about endings, someone who believed in continuation. I didn't feel the need to keep it, throw it away. I just placed it back and kept clean. There's something honest about letting things rest without deciding their importance, without forcing closure, without forcing anything. I opened the window after I finished, let the cold air come in, not to erase what was here before, just to let something new begin. I don't need everything to make sense anymore. I don't need every piece to stay. I just need to keep moving in my own quiet way. And somehow it feels enough, not empty, not full, just enough. Just enough. Just enough. Just I took different road home tonight, not because it was faster, just because I wanted to see something new, or maybe avoid something old. The streets were quieter than usual, like the city had already fallen asleep, and I was the exist somewhere in the distance of my life. Not close, not painful, just part of the path behind me. And I don't need to return to that version of myself to prove anything, to reclaim anything. I just keep driving forward quietly as myself. Because I wanted to see something new, or maybe avoid something old. The streets were quiet as usual, like the city had already fallen asleep, and I was the only one left, still moving through it. I used to think being alone like this meant something was missing. Silence meant absence, that empty seats meant lost. Now it just feels like space, space to breathe, space to exist without explanation. I stopped at a red light with no one around and didn't feel impatient. Didn't feel the need to rush forward, just waited. There was a time I was always further, I was somewhere, trying to reach something, trying to hold on. Now I understand, not everything needs to be held. Some things are meant to be passed through. I don't wonder where you are anymore, not out of indifference, but out of peace. You exist somewhere in the distance of my life. Not close, not painful, just part of the path behind me. And I don't need to return to that version of myself to prove anything, to reclaim anything. I just keep driving forward quietly as myself. like something I used to share with you. I remember how we never rushed to leave. We'd sit there for minutes, sometimes saying nothing, sometimes saying everything. The outside world could wait, it always did. What mattered was that small space where nothing else existed. Tonight there was no one beside me, just my reflection in the glass, older somehow, quieter. I didn't feel the urge to escape it, I didn't feel the urge to feel it, I just let it be. There's a kind of honesty in these moments when nothing distracts you, when there's nowhere else to hide and nowhere else to go. I used to think strength meant moving on quickly, not looking back, not feeling anything. Now I know strength is sitting with it, without running, without pretending. I opened the door, eventually stepped into the cold air, not as someone leaving something behind, but as someone continuing. And for the first time in a long time, that felt enough. I opened the fridge without thinking, just stood there staring inside. Not because I was hungry, because I didn't know what else to do. There was a time I would have texted you something stupid, something small, just to break the silence, just to feel less alone in it all. You always answered in your own way, not trying too hard, not trying to fix anything, just being there. I didn't realize how much that mattered until the space stayed empty, until silence stopped being shared and became mine entirely. I closed the fridge and leaned against the counter, listening to nothing, feeling nothing, urging nothing, pulling me backward. It's strange how life becomes simpler after something complicated ends. Not easier, just quieter. I don't reach for what isn't there anymore. I don't imagine different outcomes, I just live inside what is. There's peace peace and not expecting, and not needing confirmation, and not waiting for something to return. I turned off the kitchen light, let the room disappear behind me. Not because I was leaving something, but because I was done standing still. And somehow walking away like that felt like progress. I sat on the edge of my bed tonight, still wearing my shoes. Not tired, not restless, just unsure what to do. There was a time I would have called you without thinking twice, just to hear your voice, just to make the night feel less wide. You didn't need to say anything important. Sometimes you didn't say much at all, but knowing you were there made everything feel small. Now the room feels different, not empty, just honest. Nothing pretending to be more than it is. Nothing waiting to happen. Nothing asking for meaning. I untied my shoes, slowly placed them by the door, like I was leaving something behind, even though nothing was there anymore. I don't miss you in the way I used to. I don't reach into the past. I just remember who I was before I learned things don't last. And somehow that version of me still exists, not broken, not lost, just quieter now, just someone who understands that not every ending needs to be undone. I turned off the light and lay down in the dark, not searching for anything, just letting myself be where I am. Stood by the window longer than usual, watching people walk past without noticing me. Everyone moving with somewhere to be, everyone belonging to something. There was a time I moved like that too, like my life was connected to another, like every step had direction because it 'cause everything was perfect, but because nothing was pretended. I saw a car like yours today. start wishing for another chance.